Hello everyone, welcome to Hash It Out. I am your host Toya Zhang. Today with me is U-Zyn, co-founder of DeFi Chain. Welcome U-Zyn.
Thank you, Toya. Nice to meet you.
Before we kickstart with the projects that you're working on, why don't you just introduce yourself, your experience a little bit to our audience?
Sure. My name is U-Zyn Chua. I'm the co-founder of DeFi Chain, lead researcher of DeFi Chain as well. So I've been into the blockchain scene for a long time, actually since late 2009, where the first time I got into Bitcoin. My background has been computing. I've been programming since young, and then got into cybersecurity, got interested in cryptography and all that. And so when I stumbled to Bitcoin from a security forum in 2009, this kind of got me hooked on. Since I've been working on a lot of blockchain projects since then. Bitcoin, Ethereum, especially on the technical side, and built one of the first exchanges in Asia in 2010. And yeah, I did a couple of projects after that, so some for the governments and some for the large corporations, building blockchain solutions for them. So I ran a blockchain consulting company and doing a lot of technical solutions for them. So one of them that my company has done in the past, I mean, it was before where I am today, is where we did the Bahamas CBDC called Sand Dollar in 2020, where it was launched. So right now I run Cake DeFi as a CTO, and I also spend a lot of time for DeFi Chain, trying to build the new, the up-and-coming DeFi blockchain that does things a little bit different from the others out there, also somewhat similar. So I mean, we're trying to adhere to the DeFi ecosystem, try to be friendly to them, and also trying to do things a little bit more safer and a little bit more scalable. So that's what we're doing right now.
That's a long journey, coming all the way from 2009. That's the first year when Bitcoin was born.
Yes. Kind of 2008, I think, was the first year. Because I got into it super early, and so did a lot of communicating and conversation with the early Bitcoin developers, especially on IRC back then, and people were really friendly back then. So
I can imagine. I didn't experience that period of time, but I can imagine there are a lot of chats on the Bitcoin Talk. This forum.
The forum was originally Bitcoin.org. It wasn't even a Bitcoin Talk initially. Right. Bitcoin.org, run by Satoshi himself. So we were talking there and on IRC as well. And people were just really friendly, and we were trading, and there's no need for an exchange back then, to be honest. There's no need for KYC, no need for anything. And we were just trading on IRC, and I trade quite a bit, but never got scammed once. There's no trust system involved. Like, you send me first, I send you, that's it.
Exactly.
Friendly time back then.
Good old days.
Yes.
But this is prejudice, but people who came all the way from that age, mostly that I encountered would be like Bitcoin maximalists. Like, they either being tech agnostic or like Bitcoin maximalist. Like, you go a long way to build your own protocol now with DeFi Chain. What's the journey like?
Very interesting. So I would consider myself somewhat of a maximalist. In the initial days, maybe the first 4 or 5 years or so, I was really, really big into Bitcoin. I even tuned out on other blockchains that came around at that time. This was before Ethereum, because a lot of blockchains like Litecoin, for instance. I mean, there's nothing against them. It's just that they are doing very similar things to Bitcoin itself, so there's not much differentiation. So I rather focus my energy on building things for Bitcoin and enhancing the ecosystem more, rather than spending my time looking at all these other blockchains. And then when Ethereum came about in, I think, 2015, is where that completely changed, where I do see something that's completely different there, and actually changed my view a lot. And I spent a lot of time working on Ethereum project, building a lot of open source tools and stuff for Ethereum, and I was really big on Ethereum for the next 2 or 3 years from 2015. And thereafter, when my company got the Bahamas project to build a CBDC, that's when I rethink on, because CBDC is all about creating money, and we think about the fundamental of money with blockchain. What do you want it to be? You want it to be as fundamental as possible, as basic as possible. So that got me to rethink on what this whole crypto and what this whole blockchain is all about. So got me back to Bitcoin again and really look into Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin's actually really sound money. Like even back in like 4 or 5 years ago, there was like 10 years when Bitcoin was in existence. It was still really sound. So it's a great blockchain that's provable, that get running. So that got me to relook into Bitcoin again. And after I done with the CBDC, that's when we started DeFi chain to take. Also, DeFi chain is built based on the Bitcoin blockchain itself. Take what's so great about it, what's so fundamental about it, what's so strong on the basics part of it, to extend that blockchain to do DeFi in a way that's safe, that's non-chain complete. Like it only does what it's supposed to do and not more. Therefore, it's a very, very safe kind of way to do DeFi. So that's how the premise of the whole why DeFi chain was started in the first place.
Yeah, thanks. We're going to get in lengthy about what is DeFi chain and how does it different from the other protocols. But I agree with what you said. Like you use the word sound. It's Bitcoin is such a sound money. Like it's surprising. Still looking back at the white paper, it's just designed everything correctly.
That's true. Like, you give me a goosebump when you say that, because there's like 15. How long was it? Like 15 years or so that's been around, and it's still, if you look back at the white paper, it still stands today after so long.
Exactly. And it also encouraged like the whole, we call it blockchain technology. People started to look into at like cryptography and like mining blocks, so trustless ecosystem. And then coming back to DeFi chain, when we figured it's very blockchain and finance is just interlinked together. They can't be separated. And then there are finance and there is DeFi. So why it has to be a DeFi chain, as you described, in based on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain, instead of Ethereum or any other like popular layer one protocols?
I like how you put it, Toya, that blockchain is inseparable from finance itself. That's where even Bitcoin was founded in the first place. So the token itself is inseparable from the blockchain, because the security of blockchain and how the whole thing functions, actually the finance part of it is actually a core part of the blockchain itself. So you can't separate both. And with the DeFi movement starting around 3 years back, that's happening around the Ethereum side, understandably so, because Ethereum, you can build a lot of things on it. It's very flexible. So when the DeFi movement started around the Ethereum side, it just boomed so fast. And then a lot of protocols being built on the Ethereum side. So for me, as a person that's been in the start of the days, and I really like the fundamentals of blockchain, and it just got me thinking, can we do the same thing for Bitcoin, the largest crypto in the world ever since for many years? Can we do something that allow Bitcoin to also participate in the whole DeFi movement as well?
Right.
Because like Bitcoin blockchain itself doesn't have the flexibility of Ethereum, so you can't build stuff on it. So can we take that as fundamental as Bitcoin to add some instructions, add some opcode on it to allow it to do DeFi without extending all the way to support the full string complete instruction set, therefore then inviting more attack surface and a lot more uncertainty about DeFi. So can we do DeFi as secure as Bitcoin, as sound as Bitcoin is? So that's how the fundamental or the philosophy about why DeFi chain was started in the first place.
So the current solution, if I'm not taking it wrongly, except for DeFi chain, the other protocols are doing wrap to Bitcoin, right? To make sure Bitcoin is participating in DeFi space. How is it different from your solution?
So there's two parts of that. So one is the token itself. So the token itself is actually not too different on Ethereum and on other blockchains than DeFi chain, because Bitcoin only exists on Bitcoin blockchain itself. How do you bring that over to the others onto the other chains? So you either wrap it or you go through a bridge. Which is actually also a wrap version of that. So on DeFi chain, it's actually the same. But on the technical side of it, it's a little bit different, because once you wrap that token on Ethereum, you can then have that token interact with the whole smart contracts and everything. Whereas on the DeFi chain side, it's kind of like a experiment. Can we do something as fundamental as Bitcoin, where you have no smart contracts capability. Can you do DeFi on something that's limited as that? So yes, so DeFi chain has proven that it's possible. So maybe one day it will be a great thing that we can see DeFi chain getting merged into Bitcoin, therefore allowing Bitcoin itself to be done to also participate in DeFi itself without having to be bridged over to a different chain. We don't know, but it's an experiment. It's a project that was shown that Bitcoin blockchain itself is capable of doing DeFi by extending a little bit, but not going all the way.
So DeFi chain shares some similarity with Bitcoin, the blockchain. So is it a proof of work kind of chain as well?
Yeah, DeFi chain is a fork of Bitcoin blockchain, not Bitcoin itself, but Bitcoin blockchain. So it takes the proof of work part of Bitcoin and then adds a proof of stake part of that. So you can't mine DeFi chain by throwing random hashes, but you need to have stake. So you need to have 20K DFI to run a masternodes, and then you get the right to mine DFI. So the way that mining works is kind of like a proof of work where you get to hash it, but it's not like a lot of hash. It's like only 1 hash per second per masternode. So you're not competing with each other on the compute power and all that. So it's so on DeFi chain, the consensus is proof of stake plus work because it's a modification of DeFi of Bitcoin.
How long does the one block being mined?
It's every 30 seconds.
30 seconds and transactions per second? Yeah, for that, I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but the block size is way larger than Bitcoin and the faster block time. So I think it's a few thousand times more transactions than Bitcoin in terms of capability. I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but it's a lot more performant than Bitcoin. Yeah, because naturally, if you want to do DeFi deals on top of it, you need better performance.
Yes.
Much enhanced than the Bitcoin one, which has been criticized for not being to support a lot of utilities. DFI, which is the token we briefly mentioned. How does the token economy work?
So DFI is a native token of DeFi chain, just like Bitcoin is the native token of Bitcoin blockchain. So DFI, if you mine DFI, if you do liquidity mining, if you do masternodes on DeFi chain, what you get out of that, it's DFI. So DFI is the native token for DeFi chain. You can use it to participate in DeFi transactions, to pay for fees, to earn it through liquidity mining, or to submit proposal through a DAO, because there's a DAO as well, where you can ask for funds to build projects on it, and then masternodes will then vote for it. So you need to pay a fee for that. So that's also paid in DFI. So there's a lot of usage around DFI, centered around DeFi itself on DeFi chain.
So DeFi, I think most of our audience will already understand how does it work, but I'm more interested in what you mentioned about DAO. So DFI holders will be able to vote on different DAO proposals naturally.
So the whole DeFi chain itself, it's considered like a DAO, where the one that governs it are the masternode. So there are probably there are about 13,000 kind of voters right now, and everyone has the same level. So there's a community fund holds a couple million of DFI right now. So if someone wants to ask a part of that to do something for DeFi chain, let's say someone wants to run a campaign or TV ad for DeFi chain, for instance, and a real example where someone asked for sponsorship for an MMA organization, someone asked for it, and then the master will then vote, is this approved for the amount? And then once it's approved, it will then be automatically dispersed from the blockchain itself to the person, and the person will then be able to use the fund and submit reports to say how well it's doing and all that. So it's like a functioning DAO. It's been around for 2 years now, and it's working really well. And we see a lot of great community projects that sprung out of the DAO itself.
What's the most successful case study of the DAO proposal from your experience?
A lot of community projects built around it. So a lot of use cases, poker tournaments,
tournaments.
Yeah, someone ran poker tournaments around it to promote DeFi chain. So they asked for like prize money from that, and some ad campaigns, some sponsorship. So we DeFi chain sponsored a Masari convention in New York just a couple of months back. So that was also from the DAO itself. Got quite a bit of attention from DeFi chain. And they ran a campaign on CoinMarketCap. So all of these things are, I mean, the DAO itself will then see, because there are some projects that got rejected as well. So when someone asks for fund that benefits themselves and not the whole community, therefore it gets rejected. So I think it's functioning really, really well. So overall, the whole community has improved, has grown so much because of the DAO, where all these projects are building more awareness about DeFi chain.
That reminds me, actually, DeFi being listed on Bit was through a proposal and voting.
Oh really? Okay, yeah,
yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, now I vaguely remember. Yes, that's cool.
That was how it happened. Yeah, so it shares the similarity again with your early experience with Bitcoin, like kind of people organize with each other and contribute all the way in different perspectives.
Yeah, it's a very decentralized project. There's no like foundation with any treasury. It does have a foundation, but there's no treasury. There's no holding of anything. It's just basically it's an entity. So therefore, everything of this very self-organized in a decentralized way. Kind of like how Wikipedia kind of organizes itself, where there's no like real like hierarchy or anything. It's kind of organized itself. Yeah, you put it really well, Toya. That like just like Bitcoin itself, where people are just organizing itself, so there's no like real foundation of Bitcoin is running things. But the difference between Bitcoin and DeFi chain is that there's no community fund on Bitcoin, but there is community fund on DeFi chain, where masternodes will then vote are they proof on the use or not.
Yeah, that's very nice. It's a very nice way of doing things. Everyone comes from good intention. Well, I guess that's a very good social experiment, how it will grow into. So what's the next kind of DeFi chain mandate? What people should go towards or propose towards?
I think we can. To put it simply, it's a evolving kind of a social experiment where initially you can see a lot of projects that are being funded are kind of a lot of things are approved in the initial days of the proposals, because when the blockchain is small, the community wants to have more stuff being built. So some of them were even funding for a private company to run something to let's say accept DeFi, for instance, or it was approved. But right now, as it grows bigger, so there's more questions being asked where why are we funding a private company, and a lot more demand are being also put in that if you want to ask for something, let's do a prototype first before you build something, because if we give you that money, how can we be sure that you're going to deliver that? So let's do something first and then ask for tranche payment instead of a full payment. So it's kind of self-organized from all these things that people learn over time. I would say like most of the projects are have good intentions, and they do well over time. And there are a small minority of that projects that are fail and have for private reasons that they ask for the funding. So this kind of self-organized, and also part of this whole process itself, where there's a proposals being made a little bit like Bitcoin side, like Bit. So there's a DeFi improvement proposal on Bitcoin's BIP that community are putting proposals in to say how they can improve on the blockchain. There's a lot of changes has been done, especially on the DAO part, to make it more productive and kind of more organized along the way.
DAO is one thing. Of course, it's a very experimental stage at this moment, and people are saying, I think at early 2022, people predicted that DAO is going to be a big thing the next year, and also a lot of infrastructures, building infrastructures of DAO are going to be implemented. But coming to DeFi itself, are there kind of very prominent projects, DeFi projects being built on DeFi chain, and is that the direction of development?
That is the direction of DeFi chain itself. So DeFi chain itself, just like Bitcoin, where there's no Turing complete smart contract, so there's very limited resource for you to build things on it. So what DeFi chain does is it does like swap, it does DEX, it does like liquidity mining, it does swap and atomic swap and all that in a way that's really, really safe, just like Bitcoin is. But the downside is that you can't really build smart contracts on DeFi chain. So you can build stuff that integrates with DeFi chain just like you would build exchanges that integrate with Bitcoin, but you can't build stuff on Bitcoin itself, just like you can't build stuff on DeFi chain itself. So also, just like one of the proposals I talk about, there's one community member that put in a proposal to say, how about we integrate EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine, to DeFi chain, so that instead of building things around DeFi chain, we build actually in DeFi chain itself, we build smart contract DeFi chain itself. And that's actually the next exciting thing on DeFi chain, that this EVM integration or EVM capability is going to be pushed out to allow community to build a lot more projects, a lot more protocols on DeFi chain itself rather than around it. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think over the next month or so, we're going to see DeFi chain itself support EVM. So to put it simply, it's kind of like Bitcoin plus Ethereum. So there's best of both worlds putting together into what DeFi chain is.
Well, that's very exciting. But previously, I didn't know that DeFi chain is not EVM compatible. Yeah. So that will be next month.
Yeah, I would say next month or so. Yeah. So DeFi chain is the largest DeFi protocol out there that is not EVM capable. It's very interesting. So looking at the TVL for DeFi blockchains, so the largest one out there.
So that means we're going to expect an influx of developer communities coming on board.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. Okay. There's also a CFP that's been put up that once we have EVM capability, they're going to be launching a launch pool where if a project that launch on DeFi chain that managed to attract some level of TVL, you're going to get this amount of grant from this launch pool itself. So we do expect to see a lot more projects that are going to be building on DeFi chain, largely for that, and also largely the fact that DeFi chain is kind of like a nice middle ground between Bitcoin and Ethereum, where you can then cross over to Bitcoin and Ethereum by building on DeFi chain itself.
Yeah. So if there will be new projects similar to Ethereum chain, there will be new tokens being issued on DeFi chain as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And DFI being the governance token.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very complete ecosystem.
Yes, you got it. Yeah.
So that actually another question. Like it has been many years of development in this blockchain space. There are so many projects, protocols, but eventually we want them to interoperate with each other.
Yep.
Or some will be outdated.
Yes.
So the whole space needs to evolve into
one happy family.
Exactly, and being anchored back to Bitcoin, which is the most secure one.
Yes.
With like side chains doing their own business. Is this something that is the vision of DeFi chain as well?
Yeah, I like how you put it, Toya. I really love that. So if you have a new blockchain, usually the attack point would be that the hash rate is so low and it's so prone to attack. So what DeFi chain does is it anchors itself to Bitcoin every couple of minutes, a couple of sometimes hours, sometimes minutes, and all of this is done by community itself. There's a reward system that does that. It's not even by any companies or anything that does it. So that part, it anchors to Bitcoin for the security part of that. And also, I also like the fact that you put in that there's so many blockchains out there. So we should have something that unites everything. So DeFi chain itself, it's built on the foundation that it's supporting UTXO blockchain, UTXO meaning like Bitcoin, Litecoin, all this fundamentally. And now it's adding the EVM capability. So therefore, DeFi chain will now also be friendly towards Ethereum, towards all the EVM blockchain. So DeFi chain itself is going to be the best place for developers to build a protocol that works on Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like blockchains, and also Ethereum-like blockchains. So you can build on DeFi chain, you can have bridges and side chains to all these different blockchains in a very easy way because the blockchain itself supports UTXO and EVM at the same time.
Yeah. One acronym that we need to explain to the audience UTXO.
right too.
Yes, so that is really a Bitcoin agnostic word. Can you just explain what is UTXO briefly, because technical details can be really
yes.
really lengthy.
Okay, yeah. Apologies on that. So yeah, we use that a lot because DeFi chain is a Bitcoin-like blockchain. So UTXO stands for unspent transaction output. So UTX transaction and O for output. So what it means basically is that instead of making sure that every account, every address has a certain amount of tokens, it just makes sure that the bill, the cash, like let's say if you give someone a $5 bill, that $5 bill can be then spent without having any knowledge about the account or who owns it. As long as it's a valid $5 bill, you get to spend it. So that's how Bitcoin built it, is that the address actually comes later in Bitcoin blockchain. The UTXO itself comes first. So DeFi chain is built exactly that same way. And this fundamental way of building blockchain is very basic and it's very secure. It's very proven. So a lot of the largest blockchains in the world, like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash, a lot of these are built on the same fundamental UTXO model. So DeFi chain is one of them as well. It's built on the same fundamental model. And then Ethereum is the one that kind of changed how to make it more flexible. It introduces account model. So it makes a lot of things faster and a lot of more flexibility in that regard. So DeFi chain will also then support the EVM side as well. So it's going to be friendly towards all this best of
both worlds.
Traditional blockchains, and the new world kind of blockchain. So DeFi chain will be in the middle supporting all this.
Yes. So the conversation with you actually brought me back to the early days when you start to trying to understand what is blockchain, kind of blockchain technology 101. But after all these years of development, people are started to learn more about the utility, the use cases, instead of the underlying technologies. But to be honest, that's where it will develop towards, right? If we are going towards mass adoption, not everyone is developer. They don't need to understand how one block being mined. They just need to know probably how to do yield farming, stake one token and get more from that. So it's really, even though like 2022 is not really a great market for this industry, but still looking at the curve of growth of this industry, still like technology is being developed. We started to talk ZK things, layer 2, and business model being experimented, metaverse, GameFi, so a lot of things happening and outdated at the same time. But we're still kind of lucky in this space. So what's next for 2023 with DeFi chain?
Yeah, it's a great time to build things. So developers are all busy building things, myself included, busy writing papers and building things as well. So for 2023, what we're looking for DeFi chain is definitely support of EVM. I think that's going to be a major thing on DeFi chain now that it has all this fundamental DeFi transaction supported. Now it has all these capability for you to build smart contracts, for you to build like anything you want, metaverses, games, or on DeFi chain right now there's something called a D token where there are like real world tokens. For example, like ETFs that are being mapped over on DeFi chain side, issued in a decentralized manner by some sort of economics model that's being done, and it's working for the last 1 year or so. So one of that we hope to see with EVM is that someone can build more complex products. Right? For example, like smart contracts that automatically balances itself based on the prices of ETFs and all these D tokens. So it's very interesting on what we can see there. So that's number one. And number two is that we will start to see a lot more. Once the EVM is there, it doesn't end on DeFi chain because there's a lot of improvements on DeFi chain. There's a lot of improvement that DeFi chain brings as well to the whole DeFi ecosystem. For instance, automation on DeFi chain, it's kind of pretty new on the whole DeFi scene, but it's taken for granted by DeFi chain users. One example that I could give is that if you've done liquidity mining on on DeFi, on usual EVM blockchain, for instance, you're going to have to claim your rewards. Whereas on DeFi chains get paid out every 30 seconds, so you don't have to do anything. You just send it to an exchange, you can sell it, or you can exchange for something else. So it just paid out automatically. So there's automation part of that. And liquidation as well is done automatically by the blockchain itself, so there's no need for a bot to trigger liquidation. So on DeFi chain, there's automation built in. So once EVM is there, we're going to add a lot more improvement on the EVM protocol itself, like to add automation on EVM, to add a lot more things that we could do on EVM, and also to anchor to other blockchains as well on Ethereum, to build bridges there, to have layer 2 on Ethereum and on other blockchains, on BSC and different blockchains as well. So this is what we're going to see happening on DeFi chain this year. And we definitely will see a lot more projects being built on DeFi chain this year. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That sounds nice. Indeed, that sounds heavy building, actually.
Yes, a lot of building.
For 2023. Yes, thank you, U-Zyn, for coming today. And it's really nice talking with you. Let's wish for a better 2023.
Thanks, Toya. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.